Okay, how many other wrestlers, and now that you're the boss, understand the game like you understood it at that time and are coming to you and asking similar questions?
And so there's a lot of people that do. I just had this conversation with Sean, and this will piss off everybody. I just had this conversation with Sean, and I had it with Taker as well within the last year. Because we were talking about like people helping to guide the business into the next generation and writing and storytelling and all that stuff. And I said it to Sean first. I said, Sean, think about your career, everybody that you've run up against in your career. How many people would you say absolutely 100% get it? Not a portion of it, not a piece of it, like get it. Get the modes of storytelling, get the how to get the most out of something, get all aspects of what we do. How many people would you say? And he was like, well, I don't know, man. I bet you I could count them on one hand. Right? And that's considering greats in our business and all that stuff. And he's like, I bet you I could count on one hand. I said, I think it would be a struggle to fill up all the fingers on one hand.
Really? Wow.
Right? Like, it's a different thing, and people don't get it. The amount of factors that go into creating something, getting a character, doing all those things, and then it's easy to look at it. And this is all stuff that I learned over 25 years.
What are they? Break it down. Like what
it's just so many things. It's hard to even put into context because like everything matters. So why don't you just do this with this guy? This would get him over. Well, you can't do this at this time because this guy is doing this and this doesn't work with that. And this guy got injured and that takes away from this. Oh, by the way, they hate each other. They won't work together. It won't be good. These factors don't work. I'm also getting pressure from the network to do this and I don't have this and we can't do that time-wise. Right? There's all these factors of you're building out this elaborate set of dominoes set up. And then if one of them comes out, fine, you got to start all over. Because they all affect each other, and you don't think about it that way. So the amount of thought and being able to see ahead of what's going to happen next is incredibly difficult. And that doesn't mean you're right all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that at all. You could be wrong. You can understand all that and still be wrong 80% of the time, whatever. But it's the feel. Pat Patterson was one of the greatest finish guys in our business. And, the generation that was just slightly before me of talent that came in when I first came in was all like, as they're teaching you things, they'd be like, let me teach you something here. I learned this from Pat, right? But I was fortunate enough to sit under the learning tree that was Vince. And when I say learning tree, I mean the things of what to do and what not to do, right? I was fortunate enough to sit around Pat, where when Pat was there, every day when we'd finish a production meeting, Pat would be like, what are you going to do? I'm going to get something to eat. You want to meet me in the stands? We'll talk about this show. We'd start putting shit together. And like, I'm learning all these from all these people. And, Pat would always say, the wrestling business isn't here. It's here. Right. And he was the first one to say that to me. He would be like, think about everybody in the business. How many people feel it here? Not many. It's here. It comes out of here. But the guys that really feel, he's like, they're few and far between.
I imagine those are the guys that have the greatest longevity in the business.
It is because they can feel when to ebb and flow and change and move and do all those things. And Pat would say to me all the time, there's a lot of guys here that are amazing. They don't feel. This isn't where it comes from them. And the first time he told me that, he said, you feel it.
So you get this feeling, you're like, I can be one of those guys. This is my pathway to being one of those guys. How do you set that story in motion? You can't just go, I'm leaving the group. There needs to be a reason to leave the group.
Yeah, so it's a little convoluted at the time, right? In that moment in time, like I sort of, Vince has now become a full-on character. He's got a faction called the Corporation.
Yes.
I turn on DX to go with the Corporation, but the Corporation's like this hodgepodge of all these different people, and it kind of really doesn't work out well. It just becomes this mess of stuff. So you're just trying to navigate. It's like I pop out of this thing that's working, and I pop over here, but now it's like going back. A lot of times people think that that stuff. Like you're here, so then you move into something else and you just go here.
You might have to take a step back.
Very rarely works that way. You're here,
Yep.
and I want to get here, but over here, you got to go here, and then build
Climb
yourself back up to that. Sometimes it can work where you go right there, but more times than not, I feel like whenever there's a complete shift in what you do, you go back and start over at the beginning.
Is this the Stephanie storyline?
This comes into it a little bit later.
So which is the Stephanie one?
Steph storyline.
Okay, so you're already there.
So I sort of get the opportunity. I'm put in that position where I'm world champion. You know, this is at a point in time where they're flipping titles around a lot too. It's just different time in the business. But I'm in that sort of mix where I'm being seen in the Austin Rock conversation, the Taker conversation. I'm in that mix. I've been champ. I can't remember if I was champ once or twice at that point in time, but I'm champ. And Steph, it's a funny thing because people's thoughts about how this happened are different.
Yeah.
I have this really strong creative relationship with Vince.
Yeah.
I know he has a daughter, but I've never even really met her. And then she starts to be around the company, but I'm not working with her much or anything like that. But she's in a storyline with another wrestler, this guy Tess.
Yeah.
And they are engaged to be married.
Yeah.
The lead writer at the time,
This is just so
he
insane.
leaves the company in the middle of this.
Okay.
And, you know, I've heard him say that he knew exactly where the storyline was going, just nobody else did.
Yeah, just this one guy.
So when he leaves, there's like this giant gap where like Vince's daughter's engaged with this guy. And to be honest, I hadn't even been paying that much attention to that storyline. It's just concerned with my shit more often, right? And I had a great creative relationship with Vince, but so they don't know where to go with this thing that they've announced this wedding's going to be on TV. They have to do a thing where she gets hit in the head with a garbage can and loses her memory and doesn't remember who the fiance is just to buy some time.
Right.
So they can try to figure out how to get out of this thing.
But there's going to be a wedding on Raw, is it?
On Raw.
Yeah. So, and everybody's go.
So
Were they involved in real life?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just
Were you guys at the time involved at all?
I didn't even
So
really
there's
know her.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I know they're trying to figure out a way to get out of this wedding thing.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'm in a storyline with Vince where Vince has made it like
he's a babyface at this time, right?
He is. And he has said, like, I can never have another chance at the title. Like, he's so pissed off at me, he bans me from getting world title shots. So we're in the middle of this storyline. So one day I go to him and I'm like, just thinking about our shit, right? Like, and how do we get back to getting me in that mix after what we've done? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking about that too. And I'm like, well, the thing with Steph, I said, well, what if she, you know, right before she's going to get married, she has a bachelorette party, you blow it out like some big story on TV. She has a bachelorette party, but I show up and it's a different time frame. I make her your drink. and while she's unconscious, I said, you have it in Vegas. I drive her through one of those wedding chapel things. And I end up, like, nobody knows about this, but I've filmed all of it. And now when the wedding happens, right when they say, speak now, forever hold your peace, I come out and I'm like, hold on a second, she can't marry him because she's married to me. Yeah. And I show the footage and holy shit, I've ruined your life. Yeah. And now we create this storyline where, like, if in order to get your daughter, like, this wedding annulled and so she can marry the other guy, you and I have to fight. And if I beat you, I get the world title shot. If you beat me, I annul the wedding.
Yeah.
And he's like, God damn, I love it. Right? Like, so that's what we do.
Right.
And this starts Steph and I now. So originally, it's just supposed to be a one-off thing. We'd shoot the video in Vegas.
Yeah.
And
the video's hilarious when you were mouthing.
Yeah.
You gotta get this video. It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah. So
you going, I do.
Yeah. It's utterly ridiculous, but it just works, right?
Yeah.
And this is the footage of me out there telling this story. So originally, it's supposed to be just this one-off.
Selling. Good for her.
Yeah. She's a great actress.
Beast.
Yeah, she's great.
So it's supposed to be this one-off thing that makes us have the match. I go over, I get my world title shot. She moves on, does the rest of the stuff with the testing, but at least gets them out of the wedding, right? And now it's the decision whether he's going to marry or not. The first time she goes on TV after this happens, Like, this is the cynical world we live in. She goes out on TV, and I'm sitting at gorilla position next to Vince, where we run the show from.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not working. I'm in the show. Right at this point, I'm just still a character. A character. I'm helping out heavy with creative and helping produce stuff, but I'm really just as a character on TV. And she goes out to cut the promo, and I'm sitting next to Vince, and she goes out there, and they are booing.
Yeah, it's
the
brutal.
shit out of her.
And this is unexpected completely.
Well,
Oh, that's right. They're calling her like a slut.
like
and stuff like that.
chanting slut,
Yeah,
and she's
yeah.
trying her hardest to be
To win him
like,
over.
yeah, to be this sympathetic baby face and all this stuff. And Vince taps me, and he's like, right, like, hey, this is fucking, this is so good.
20,000 people call your daughter a slut.
Yeah, this is money, right?
Yeah.
And
Sorry, what are you thinking in that moment when
at that time, I'm a little bit like, holy shit, like, she's got mega heat.
So he looks back and he goes,
Yeah. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, wow, there's legs to this thing like that we hadn't, at least I hadn't considered. I was just trying to get to my storyline with Vince, and we throw this thing out there and there's legs on it. And now we're like, holy cow. So then, the next week she goes out there as well, all this stuff. So then Vince comes to me and he's like, what if she, what if the worst possible thing happens is like, she turns on me. We have this match at pay-per-view right at the moment in time where, holy shit, Vince might actually do this and beat Triple H, and who turns on him but his own daughter to join his worst enemy in the moment of time.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And she comes with me, and he pitches it to me, and he's like, and then like I'm so distraught. My world is so turned upside down. I leave. I leave for a while, and you guys run the show like as like the boss. Like, she's the boss's daughter, so she's got all the stroke, and now you become this maniacal like
Tyrant.
talent that's gets the world title and is just like out of control, firing people and just whatever, and that's kind of starts a thing. But so as this happens, like, I don't know Steph at all, sort of. Yeah, well, I don't, but we're working together, right? So now our storyline become, and the one,
We believe you.
but I don't, and the thing is, she's a sponge for the business, right? Like,
Yeah.
Steph is like, she wants nothing but to be in this business, right? So
is she, sorry, have you talked to her about that moment and what she was feeling? Is she like her dad, where she's thinking the same shit, or is she like this?
Yeah.
So she knows the game, right?
Yeah, she's like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Like, they're blowing the shit out of me. Like, she's very savvy to this stuff. And she's one of the few people, and I would say this as well, and people think, oh, it's your wife. It's like, when I make that small list of people on one hand that get it, she's one of them.